Welcome back to the Battle of Rendezvous. We're going in with a fairly similar setup. I've swapped out the smoothbores for two long-range guns and made two new infantry units, and we're bringing in the Zouave unit. We put our point in medicine, and we're still facing fairly high training, fairly high weapons, and decently high army size. But for this battle, we're actually going to be almost even in numbers. The scaling almost doesn't do anything at all in this battle, no matter what you do. At least I've never made units big enough to do it. I'm sure someone could probably pull it off. Um, so I'm setting all my infantry up to move over to the eastern side of the map and intercept two of the skirmisher units that spawn in here. And then we'll just link up with the rest of our units that are going to come in on the map edge a little bit later. So the only real trick to this is trying to get into a position where you can cordon them off into the corner in time. That's why I'm bringing the two skirmisher units, because the infantry just can't get there in time, and they'll end up going up in the north into that field. One thing I haven't tried that is another option is if you go to the west side of the map, I think you can actually get there before the AI units spawn in, and you could try and ambush them there, but there's like 3 infantry brigades at least, and they all spawn directly in the woods. I think what would be more useful is their supply wagon spawns just north of that, so you could probably actually steal the supply wagon and then try and get it out of there. But with the way this battle is, I'm not sure I don't think it'd actually be worth it, just because they barely use any supply anyways, because we don't really let them spend any time firing at anything, and they don't have artillery to actually drain it quickly. So you can see I'm just sliding everything over, trying to get them caught in the corner, letting the Zouave unit with 100% cover take most of the fire. You do need to be somewhat careful because AI units will come over from the rest of the map if they see you, but it takes them a while, so it's usually fine. So we got in a pretty good spot. We got one unit bugged out. The other unit's firing at us, but once we rout both of them, then it won't be a problem anymore. And we're just going to set up the infantry to get some free shots in there, and then we'll see if we can get one of them to surrender. You do want to be careful about pushing it. Like if you bring more skirmishers or something, you want to be careful about pushing in too close. Otherwise, it will cause the AI to stop rebounding off the board edge, and it will just hard push to try and go one direction or another, usually to the north. And then you end up in a running chase, which is annoying. But I pulled it off pretty much perfectly this time, so they're just going to sit there. You can see the 38 North Carolina is starting to move over towards us. Also, I guess I should note, you don't have to hold on to the victory point here. You can largely ignore it, and you have tons of time in this map, so no reason to rush anything or try and defend from the center or anything like that. So just charging 2 units in. I picked the 2 units that have the best condition out of my units there, and turning them off so we don't have any more friendly fire. Looks like we're not going to get any captures this time. So I've got my skirmishers positioned to hit the 38th North Carolina just as they're going through the water, and all my units are hidden now, so it's actually probably going to stop and not do anything. If it didn't, I would have pushed the Zouaves into visual range so that it refocused on them while I waited for the rest of my units to catch up. So if you actually got into a direct fight with these units, it would probably actually not go particularly well just because they are all 3 stars. I guess it's even numbers, so you'd still win handily, but you just take a lot more casualties, and there's just no need for that. So instead, we go off to the side, wait for our reinforcements to arrive, and we're just going to pick off these units one at a time and take almost no casualties while doing it. So as you can see, the AI is really designed on this map to encounter units as it moves in. So those skirmishers are supposed to go up to the south, and they're supposed to spot everything, and then the rest of the AI units are supposed to see your units defending the flag and move after them. There's a bunch of them sitting to the northwest of the flag, but when you just keep all your units hidden, the AI just isn't expecting that, and isn't really programmed to go find you. It's not using an aggressiveness setting that is set up to do that. So it just kind of sits around and lets you do whatever you want. In a lot of ways, it probably wouldn't change a whole lot even if you did, even if it was more aggressive, because I would have just set up in this tree line here with this creek in front of me, and if they were going to be aggressive and come after me, I'd just let them hit me there. In a lot of ways, that'd actually be probably preferable to what I end up doing. Um, you can see that when we're flanking around to this side, I found going around to the west is the best way to get at them. You could cross the river to the northeast and then try and come down that way, but you end up having to fight across the river, and it just doesn't work particularly well. So I've found looping around from the west is the best way to get vision and kill off these units that are standing in the trees. But you can see, like, even the extra brigade, the 18th North Carolina 1st Brigade, is just not even reacting to what's going on next to it. So yeah, I must just have a very passive setting on here. So we've got them set up so they're firing at the target in the woods. You can see that it's actually doing pretty decent damage to that unit, even though it's in cover. Not 100% cover, but... And the supply wagon's just sitting there, so we'll go grab it. And we're just going to keep slowly shifting ourselves to the west and realigning ourselves so that anytime a unit does come after us, it's going to get hit by 4 or 5 at once and rout pretty quickly. So we're going to take a little damage, but that unit's so small that it's not going to do a whole lot. It looks like it might have reload perks instead of accuracy perks. I'm not sure. Probably just the unit's really small. Hard to say. But you can see it's pretty easy to get the skirmishers into positions where they can hit units without being seen. You can actually do it with the infantry as well in a few cases. So we've got most of this taken care of, so we're just going to slide everything over and repeat the process. The next stage is a little bit more difficult because you have trouble getting vision in the woods. And there's several units standing around in there. You could go north to the VP right now, but that would basically involve you standing in the open while fighting units in the tree line, so we don't want to do that. And we'll just send our skirmisher units up there, get the infantry in position, get the artillery in position, and then as we spot things, we'll slowly get rid of them. And this is all made a lot easier by having taken out those skirmishers, since the infantry spotting is so bad that your skirmishers are pretty safe to want to run around and do whatever they need to. Possibly a good argument for finding a way to fit a spotting bonus back into 3-star, into the 3rd perk for infantry, so that there's a little more variance in terms of how easy it is to get spotted once you've managed to destroy all of the enemy's skirmishers, because that was one of the problems in 1.24, is that once you cleared them out, you could use your own super spotting bonus from recon and just destroy everything with artillery, which might... It's probably more possible than I want it to be in this version as well, but we'll have to see how that turns out. So bringing out the supply wagon just to see if I can bait anything else over to me. And that I'm not sure what's in the woods, so I'm just going to start moving in there, though I realize that my artillery is firing at something in there, so I can see there's clearly something or other. And if it just been the 7th North Carolina, I think I would have gone in, but with that other unit there, then I back up again because I want to get back into cover. I don't want to fight them in the open. Moving the snipers over. I'm hoping to be able to spot that 2nd unit in there when I bring them a little closer. And just keeping going with the swing along the side. And for what it's worth, all of this pretty much works in the exact same way if you're playing in the base game. Uh, it'll be a little bit different. You'll have detached skirmishers. Certainly makes that first part much easier, though the timers are a little bit shorter. So you end up in pretty much the same situation. I would say, in general, fairly similar strategies in terms of well, fairly similar tactics will work in the base game as work in the mod. A lot of the differences involve army setup and I guess maybe resting your army and how you handle charges and that sort of thing. Like you can not worry about that stuff pretty easily in the base game, where you do have to worry about it a little bit more here. And I guess you can just walk right up to cannons in the base game and kind of not care. And that's a really, really bad idea in the mod. So that's probably one of the more major differences. So going to come across, I'm hoping to get vision on that retreating unit. Turns out that was a bad idea. So I'm halting just to try and. So I was hoping to take the volley in the trees and then run across the open space so I wasn't in super low cover when I took the volley. It turned out that unit can reload really fast, so took the rear flank while in the river, which wasn't great, but that unit is so small that even though it was expensive to put veterans back into it, it's really not too bad. So we've almost got them out of the woods, got the point back. You can see that 16th North Carolina unit just doesn't want to move for anything. Doesn't care what the rest of the army's doing at all. 3-star units, I guess their melee power is far higher than my 1-star units, which makes sense. They have if those units actually landed in melee, they would probably destroy my units. But when I have that many more units, I can just blast away and solve the problem. And just gonna fall back. I could go into melee right now, but what I'd really prefer to happen is to stop, and then as soon as his charge ends, then I would charge back into him. Sending the units on runs, so they can spin and volley faster. Sort of breaking my line up with how far he's going, but well, he isn't catching me because he's starting to get tired, and we're just pouring fire into his flanks. So, and now because of my unit alignment, he sees the least amount of my units to the northwest, so he's going to try and route that way, even though that does take him through the path of Horn. But this is a pretty good example of, the AI is trying to run away from my units. If he runs to the east, he's running straight down a gauntlet full of my units again. So his technical best way of retreating is actually to the west. I guess they attack from all sides here, so who knows what their actual lines were supposed to have been. But the game logic doesn't really care about that. Tried to cross the river up there. That was a dumb idea. Should have known that was going to happen. But they decided to charge instead of shooting at me, so we're going to be able to get away without really losing anything. Sadly, we did not get a surrender and didn't wipe that unit out, so we're going to have to chase him down. But we've still got plenty of time. Just going to let the 37th North Carolina come back out across the river, and once he's gone, then we'll be able to deal with the last unit. Sending the Zouaves back to the left, I'm expecting to need to have him spot that infantry unit over there. Now that that unit is retreating further to the east, I can get the snipers across, and he'll be able to clear out the rest of them. So the battle's clearly over. We're just trying to minimize casualties across the last little bit. Moved up the artillery so they can get some more kills. So one of the problems I'm going to have with the last couple of battles actually is because the AI fields such relatively small armies, you can't kill off enough to really keep the AI army size down. So it does actually balloon up quite a bit across these three battles. It doesn't have a huge impact as far as I can tell, but it's never good to see that number go up. So hopefully we'll be able to drop it down with at Gaines Mill and Malvern Hill. But in some ways, it's interesting to see it be a little higher, just because, you know, if you get lucky and get the low rolls on everything, and the AI units are just super small everywhere, then that takes a lot of the fun out of the campaign past a point. So now that we're past Shiloh, okay with seeing those numbers go up a bit. So trying to get in position to charge that last unit in the south there. Just want to make sure that he's firing at that unit in the woods. Really don't want that unit in the east to route to the south. Really want him to go up into the corner where he'll be easier to catch. Thankfully my snipers are hidden and he decides to oblige me. That unit in the south or I guess in the west, just really doesn't want to shatter. So that was the last unit up there. Didn't even get close enough to melee. And we'll see. I think I decided to try and go in for another melee, and that was probably a mistake. I just lost an extra 20, 30 men for no reason. But, well, we only lost 600 total. We'll get a little bit of that back from medicine. Wiped everything out. No, as expected, the artillery and the snipers do well when the AI stands around and lets you shoot them for an hour. Um, Not a whole lot to the battle past a certain point. Once you figure out the AI doesn't know what to do when you don't stand on the point, it's pretty easy. So got some 61s, got some Lorenzes, got the supplies, lost fairly little. So that'll be good. Let us upgrade some weapons. So we've got 3K, 40K recruits going into Gaines Mill, so we'll be in pretty good shape. We almost have a lieutenant general. We should probably be able to get a lieutenant general coming out of Gaines Mill. It's a little fashion. I'd really like to see lieutenant generals coming out, but I did get pretty lucky in terms of getting a very high XP brigadier general in the barracks. And if you don't get one of those, like it's possible that you don't even get a single brigadier general, then that slows down your progression quite a lot. So not too worried about it. But you can see they got double reinforcements, tons of veterans. So we're at 100K army size, 60 training, almost 40 armory. So that's probably going to make this a little interesting. So they're at 47K, and we haven't even started moving our units up yet. I have seen that from some of the testing that was done that you can hit very high numbers in this battle. Scaling apparently will go crazy if you make enough infantry. I saw a report that someone managed to hit 90,000 enemy men on Major General, much less Legendary. So, but we'll go into that more when we do Gaines Mill itself. So yeah, that was Rendezvous. I will be back with Gaines Mill. Thanks for watching.